Sasha, the hero of Helmand. The sun hung low over the Helmand River Valley, painting the Afghan sky in hues of amber and dust. For Sasha, a 4-year-old German shepherd with a coat the color of desert sand, the world was not one of beauty but of scents. Her nose, twitching with purpose, sifted through the chaos of smells: sweat, gunpowder, the faint tang of metal, and the acrid bite of explosives. Trained as a military working dog, Sasha had one mission: find the hidden threats that could end lives in an instant. In the summer of 2012, she would prove herself a hero in ways no one could have predicted. Sasha was born in a kennel in Lackland Air Force Base, Texas, where the U.S. military's working dog program evaluated puppies for courage, focus, and drive. From the start, Sasha stood out. Her amber eyes held a quiet intensity, and her eagerness to work was unmatched. By 18 months, she was paired with her handler, Staff Sergeant Michael Carter, a wiry man from Ohio with a soft spot for dogs and a knack for reading Sasha's every signal. Together, they trained for a year, mastering the art of detection in mock battlefields littered with simulated improvised explosive devices, IEDs. Carter learned to trust Sasha's nose over his own instincts, and Sasha learned to trust Carter's commands over her own curiosity. In early 2012, they deployed to Helmand Province, Afghanistan, one of the most dangerous regions in the war. The Taliban had littered the landscape with IEDs, crude but deadly devices buried in dirt paths, hidden in walls, or tucked beneath piles of rubble. For the Marines of the 2nd Battalion, 7th Regiment, every step was a gamble. Sasha and Carter were their edge, a living shield against an invisible enemy. Their first mission came on a sweltering June morning. The platoon was tasked with clearing a village suspected of harboring insurgents. As the Marines moved through narrow alleys, Sasha led the way, her nose low to the ground. Carter watched her closely, his M4 rifle slung across his chest, his heart sinking with her every pause. Halfway through the village, Sasha froze, her ears twitching. She sat abruptly, her signal for danger, staring at a patch of dirt beside a crumbling wall. Carter raised his hand, halting the platoon. The engineers moved in, probing the ground with care. They uncovered a pressure plate IED, rigged with enough explosives to kill a dozen men. Sasha's tail wagged as Carter slipped her a rubber ball, her favorite reward. The Marines clapped her on the flank, calling her good girl. It was the first of many saves. Over the next 6 months, Sasha's legend grew. She detected IEDs in places no one thought to look: a rusted can by a riverbank, a pile of rocks near a goat trail, a child's toy abandoned on a road. Her nose was uncanny, picking up traces of ammonium nitrate and ATP where even sophisticated equipment failed. By September, she had found 27 IEDs, saving countless lives. The Marines started calling her Lucky Sasha, though Carter knew it wasn't luck. It was skill, honed by instinct and trust. But Afghanistan was unforgiving, and even heroes faced tests. On October 12, 2012, Sasha and Carter joined a night patrol near Marja, a hotspot of Taliban activity. The air was thick with tension. Intelligence warned of a new wave of IEDs planted along supply routes. The platoon moved slowly, their night vision goggles casting the world in eerie green. Sasha, fitted with a tactical harness, worked off-leash, her silhouette darting ahead. Carter whispered commands through a radio clipped to her vest, guiding her through the darkness. At a crossroads, Sasha stopped. She circled a spot, her nose pressed to the earth, then sat and stared back at Carter. He signaled the platoon to halt, but before the engineers could move in, a burst of gunfire erupted from a nearby compound. The Taliban had been waiting. Bullets snapped through the air, pinning the Marines behind a low wall. Carter crouched, calling Sasha back, but she didn't move. She stayed by the IED, her body rigid as if guarding it. Carter's stomach twisted. He knew she wouldn't budge until he reached her. Under fire, Carter sprinted to Sasha, sliding beside her in the dirt. He clipped her leash, his hands shaking as rounds kicked up dust inches away. "Good girl, let's go," he whispered, tugging her toward cover. But as they moved, Sasha yanked hard, pulling him toward another spot 10 feet away. She sat again, her eyes locked on a second patch of dirt. Carter cursed under his breath. 2 IEDs in one ambush. He radioed the find, and the engineers confirmed it later. Both devices were wired to detonate together, a trap meant to wipe out the entire patrol. The firefight lasted 30 minutes. The Marines drove off the attackers, but not without cost. 2 men were wounded, one losing a leg to a third eye Sasha hadn't reached in time. Carter held her close that night, her head resting on his lap in their outpost. He wondered if she sensed the weight of it all, the lives saved, the ones lost. She licked his hand, her eyes calm, and he knew she was ready to go again. Sasha's final mission came in November. The platoon was escorting a supply convoy through a wadi, a dry riverbed flanked by steep hills. The terrain screamed ambush, and Carter kept Sasha close. Halfway through, she alerted to an IED buried in the path. As the engineers worked, Sasha tugged at her leash, her nose twitching toward a nearby ridge. Carter hesitated. She wasn't trained to chase scents that far off, but her insistence was unmistakable. He trusted her. They climbed the ridge, Sasha pulling ahead. At the top, she sat beside a pile of stones, her signal clear. Carter called for the engineers, who uncovered a massive IED. 5 gallons of homemade explosives, enough to destroy the entire convoy. But as they worked, a sniper's bullet cracked through the air. It struck Sasha in the hind leg, and she yelped, collapsing. Carter dove to her side, shielding her as more shots rang out. The Marines returned fire, neutralizing the sniper, but Sasha was bleeding badly. Carter carried her down the ridge, his voice breaking as he begged her to hold on. The medevac chopper was too far, so they drove her to a forward operating base. The vet worked for hours, but the damage was severe. Sasha's leg couldn't be saved, and her internal injuries were too grave. Carter stayed with her, stroking her fur as she slipped away. Her amber eyes held his until the end, calm and trusting. Sasha was credited with detecting 32 IEDs during her deployment, saving hundreds of lives. The Marines of 2-7 petitioned for her to receive a posthumous honor, and in 2013, she was awarded the K9 Courage Medal, a rare recognition for a military working dog. Carter returned home, carrying her collar and a weight he couldn't shake. He told her story to anyone who'd listen, not just of her nose, but of her heart, her stubborn will to protect. In Helmand, the Marines still talk about Sasha. Her name is scrawled on a wall at Camp Leatherneck, alongside tributes to fallen comrades. For those who walked beside her, she was more than a dog. She was a soldier, a sister, a hero who sniffed out death and gave them life.